Alrighty, welcome back to another video, and today we have some news to talk about. So, today is February 28th, and something happened this morning. So, 5:15 a.m., an Azerbaijani soldier wielding an AKM, which is your very average Soviet gun, entered Sunik, specifically Ter, which is a village. He was captured by the Armenian armed forces and is now gonna be prosecuted as a criminal because this is a criminal case now. The soldier in question is Bakhanov Ruslan Eldenizoğlu. I will show a picture of this just brain damaged idiot right now. So what's going on here? What's going on? If we look at what the Azerbaijani channel is saying, according to them, as well as according to the Ministry of Defense of Azerbaijan, who came up with a very, very quick explanation, honestly, is just that he got lost in the forest while it was raining. Now, if you look at the map, there aren't really any forests to be lost in. Although that's besides the point. It's more so interesting how they were able to come up with a reasoning as for why he passed the border so easily. Like it's very interesting. I'm amazed that the intelligence of Azerbaijan is so developed that they knew that this man got lost and was detained while being lost. They couldn't tell him to come back for some reason. I don't think that this is an accident, and I don't think anyone should think that this is an accident. So whenever anything happens between Armenia and Azerbaijan, like a meeting, right? There's usually always a problem that occurs at the border. Every single time. It's a very obvious pattern to follow. So the reason why I don't think this was an accident was because there was a meeting today in Berlin between the foreign ministers of Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Germany. Must I explain myself further? Either he did actually get lost and the Azerbaijanis allowed him to just continue being lost. So, as to scare the public in Armenia, as a way to pressure Armenia into saying, hey, look, our soldiers in your territory while we're talking to you, so we're the ones in charge. Even though, as I've said previously, they already occupy a decent amount of our land, which again, I must point out, most people don't know, nor is it ever truly raised. That's the first story. Now, I'd also just like to get into a story that happened around a week or two ago. So, for context, there's this guy named Kamil Zeynali. He is a fitness trainer, and he is an Azerbaijani, and he is a idiot who has something wrong up here. Up here, he has some just it just doesn't work a little bit. Why am I even talking about him? So he's already a bit of a controversial figure since during July 2020, he urged a lot of Azerbaijanis to attack local Armenians living in Moscow, and he even said, "The president, in this case he means Aliyev, is with us. Even if you are deported, you'll return as heroes," which is a weird thing to say, and you might think that's coming out of nowhere, but it does have some logic behind it. Well, the best thing you can call it is logic. In honesty, it's idiotic. Him saying you'll return home as heroes is referring to the case when Gurgen Markaryan, which was a lieutenant in the Armenian armed forces, was very brutally murdered with an axe by Ramil Safarov, who was someone in the Azerbaijani armed forces, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember his position, but he was in the Azerbaijani armed forces. And this all happened in 2004 in Hungary during a NATO conference, by the way. And this man was detained by the Hungarian authorities for obvious reasons. And what happened was that he was supposed to serve a life sentence in Hungary. Although he didn't serve that life sentence, since Azerbaijan said, oh, we'll imprison him, we'll have him, you just extradite him to us. and we'll imprison him here since he's a citizen. Hungary's like, okay, sure. They extradite him. Instantly pardoned by Aliyev, and then became a national hero. During the court case in Hungary, it should be noted that his lawyers tried to argue that he was insane and not mentally stable. Back to Kamil Zeynali, my favorite idiot. What has he done other than this? Well, during the 2020 war between the Second Artsakh War between Azerbaijan and Armenia, there was a video where he assisted in the beheading of an elderly citizen in Artsakh. And I've seen the video, and it is pretty bad. And the government of Armenia very much said, we want this man detained and imprisoned for this very obvious war crime of beheading this elderly Armenian man. Well, he was arrested in Russia under the charges of crimes against humanity, war crimes against a sponsored person, war crimes using prohibited methods of warfare, recruiting mercenaries. He was detained in an airport in Russia. And what happened to this man? To this terrorist, if you would call him, this insane person who very clearly is willing to kill Armenians who have not hurt him in any way, shape, or form. He was released. The Russians released him, and they let him continue on his travels to Azerbaijan. Pretty bad story. It really shows how horrible the relations between Russia and Armenia have been very recently. Now, I'm not in favor of being close to Russia, being close to US, being close to Iran. I'm not specific. It it shouldn't be a question of whose side should you be on. When we're talking politics, you should be your own ally and play everyone. That's kind of the whole point. As we know, the very beautiful government, which is not too far away from where I am, since, I'm in Yerevan, they don't really like doing work because, like, oh, doing foreign policy, that's a bit hard, man. I don't know. I can't do that. Well, it's because they're all ran by idiots and no one has the capabilities to do any type of thinking. It's a pretty sad situation, but that's mainly the reason why the relations with Russia are so bad and why it's bad on us, because we had ties with them and now we're severing those ties, replacing them with Western ties, where you could have just, had ties with everyone. If you were smart, you could play the sides, do what Turkey's doing, arrest me. But speaking with the ties between the West and Russia, Zelensky, my favorite president of Ukraine. This man is going on another trip. In March, he will come to both Armenia, Azerbaijan, and most probably Georgia. I wouldn't be surprised. They're an EU candidate. Why else would he not go to Georgia? It's been announced that he's coming to Azerbaijan. There's been rumors that he's coming to Armenia. The government here said in a statement, I don't remember the specific statement, but they basically said, we're not saying that he's not coming. He's coming, in short. And with this arrival of this beautiful Ukrainian man, we should be paying attention to what Russia will say to all of this. It will be interesting what they say about Azerbaijan. It'll be interesting what they say about Armenia. It should be noted that Ukraine has very nice ties with Azerbaijan, which is not mentioned much. It's very on the down low. So throwing Zelensky into the trash real quickly, we should also talk about the tensions that are building between Armenia and Azerbaijan, specifically around amending our constitution. Now, this has been a developing story that started ever since January. If we talk about a timeline of events, on January 19th was the first time where Pashinyan said Armenia not only needs an amendment to a constitution, it needs a new constitution to fight against our geopolitical stance now, whatever the hell that means. This had horrible outrage since no person in the Armenian government, or honestly, no one in Armenia really respects any type of legislation. Just the fact that they're changing it shows that they don't really respect it. A month passes, February 1st. Aliyev, president of Azerbaijan, says Armenia needs to change the constitution so we can attain peace in the Caucasus. It should be noted that Azerbaijan has been pushing the same thing about the Zangezur corridor. They said no peace will be achieved without this corridor that we want through Armenia. Then after Armenia very vehemently protested that, they decided to drop it and say, oh, well, we can get a corridor through Iran, so it's okay. You gotta love the Azerbaijanis, man. You gotta love them. And on the same day, Pashinyan doubles down and says there won't be any peace without any amendments to the constitution. He, in that statement, was talking about amendments when his original statement was about changing the entire constitution, making a new one, which, for people who don't know, would mean that there would be a fourth Republic of Armenia. That's just a fun fact right there. You can't really get anything out of that. So there are a lot of people who are against this, and even the Church of Armenia, Ejmiatin, they made a statement saying that it's a dumb idea to change the constitution. It should not be done. But there is still pressure from outside forces telling Armenia, you need to change your constitution. And this pressure is coming from both Turkey and Azerbaijan. Just like Zangezur corridor. It's the same thing. It's like a mirror. They keep doing, I tell you, there's very obvious patterns that people need to follow. These people are very predictable and they don't do anything different, okay? They just change the name of the thing they want. So on to Turkey. It should be noted that relations between Armenia and Turkey have been going in a direction. They want to open the border, and they even restored the Ani Bridge. Now, yes, yeah, the border, just problems, they're talking about opening the border. So, Turkey in a statement. Turkey will not open the border with Armenia until all issues between Baku and Yerevan are resolved. This was said by Turkish Parliament Deputy Sharim Aydim. I don't know how to pronounce things in Turkish. I should work on that. Armenia must make changes to its constitution, which reflect its territorial claims to Azerbaijan and Turkey, Aydim stated. Armenia must change its constitution. Pressure, 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 pressure. If Armenia will actually change or amend the constitution is something that no one can predict, honestly. You can see that there are steps in the direction of that happening. Well, Alen Simonyan said in an interview that this is all propaganda. Don't let Azerbaijan think they're the reason this is happening, even though they are pushing for it. So there's obvious pressure, meaning that the pressure will force you to change the constitution in a way that they want you to. Well, we should be looking forward to a good future, guys, since Pashinyan in a statement said that he had had 4 international visits. March will also be very active, with many large events planned in April. This man is talking like a YouTuber who has plans for his channel. We are all super excited to see what this man has in store for us, guys. As an Armenian, you should be proud in the direction our country is taking itself. Our government is very capable. As an Armenian, you should fall for the trap of blaming everything on Russia when the ties between Armenia and Russia fell because of Pashinyan himself and not because of something that Russia did first. Again, I stress, Armenia should have good ties with everyone. But the issue is that takes work, and, well, Pashinyan's gang doesn't really like doing that, since we could be doing so many things, but we are sitting around trying to do nothing. That's our goal, honestly. To sit around and do nothing like Georgia is right now. You don't see them doing anything at all. They're just sitting there. They're sitting there doing nothing. That's what our government wants. They want us to sit around and do nothing like we're Liechtenstein. All right? But we can't do that. That's the video. I'm tired as hell. My piece of advice: read a book. Do that. Alright, thanks, bye-bye.